Hey, hello everyone. So this is a follow-up from my video from last weekend. This is my donor transmission. I'll be using this if my transmission, my car gives out. Primarily I bought it for the valve body and the torque converter. It was almost, I don't know, about the same as buying the two parts individually. But at the same time I have a backup transmission now just in case I blow this one up, increasing my my torque if I ever up my shot on my nitrous. So anyway, it's good to have a backup one. I also have a torque converter that I could have had the stall increased to a higher RPM to kick in. So what we're going over today is how to put that valve body in this transmission. I really can't do a video of that underneath the car. It's much more difficult when you're underneath because you're trying to hold it up there and keep things flat and put the bolts in, and the bolts all have different, there's like I would say 3 different size bolts, and they go along the back here. So if you look closely at this transmission on the bolts sequence, you can see there's a bunch of them here in the back, and there's a couple on the side. The alignment one is on the left bottom corner there. I'll show you what the bolts look like once I get this thing in, and then you got like 4 of them over on the right. So that's what you're kind of battling with when you're doing this underneath the car. It's much harder to do. You also have to align this hole right here. That's what I was talking about, where when you're pulling it out and in, when you're from above, it's a lot easier to keep this attached in a line to push it in and out. But it turns out I left this part in the transmission, and I was able to snap it in while I was pushing it up because it was just easier that way. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this for now, and when I get this thing back in, I'll continue on. Alright, so the valve body is in. It's a lot easier to get this thing in, but you still have to kind of massage it to get it in there. It's going to have a little bit of a bounce to it once it's in there, and you got to make sure it aligns with this shifting level here on the side of the car. It should move without any type of resistance. You can't really do this when you're underneath the car, but you can make sure there is some movement. So that's what I was doing when I was underneath, and make sure this was aligned. And I could wiggle it without it being like being tight or any type of resistance. Also, the other thing you gotta do is push this through. It's a lot easier to do when you're above the car. I left this actually attached when I pushed it, when I pulled and installed it from the car, because it was easier when you're working underneath it that way. But when you're doing it this way, it's pretty easy. You just have to align it with that hole, and then you just kind of grab it and pull it through, and then go ahead and put the clip on there. Now, important thing here is the bolts. So you're going to have to do this the same thing when you're underneath the car, which is more challenging because you're actually holding this thing in place while you're trying to figure out which bolts go to which locations. So this is what the bolts look like from above. They're gonna all, once you have them in the right place, they're all about a ½ inch sticking out around here. There's gonna be one that's gonna have to go into this alignment hole here. All the other ones are a little bit loose, as you can see, but this bolt is a little thicker than all the others, and it's a little tighter right here. So this is the first one you're gonna actually tighten down. So I'll start with that, push it down, not torque it all the way down yet, and then go ahead and tighten all the other ones up, torque this one down, and go all the way through it again. So that concludes this, and that's how you put this thing back together.